Welcome back to Ordinal Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire ordinal marketplace, everything, guys. Today we have an artist. We have the artist, one of my favorites. This guy is very talented. He's building a freaking army of artists, and it is beautiful to see. Art on Bitcoin is here to stay, and these guys are really like front running this. They're the number one art group in the space. I mean, obviously we have artists, we had Sir Gadfly on, we have Paris on, but this is the first group of individuals who are really coming alive and really putting their stuff together, and it's beautiful to see. And I'm excited to get into it. So without further ado, let me bring in my partner, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What is up? What's going on?
What's going on, man? So we got Pryzm today. Amazing artist, amazing group, amazing leader. It should be a really fun one.
Yeah, Pryzm has really solidified not only his place but the place of counterfeit culture in ordinals, right? And I feel like it was very carefully and well done in terms of being able to curate this group of artists, which he's continually doing, right?
Yeah.
And he's really carving out like this place for counterfeit culture, because it's like one of the first curated groups, like you said, of digital artists that are making their place in ordinals. So I'm excited to hear. I know that they've been they're always cooking, but like something seems to be like really on the horizon, and hopefully you can kind of open up a little bit about it.
Exactly, and this team is really pushing. I mean, they just signed Moral. I'm not sure what that is, but Moral's amazing. He's really out there. He was the first person to hop into spaces this morning. It was me and then Moral, and then which was absolutely amazing. Just shows that he wants to get out there, and he wants to talk about counterculture and everything. And he's always in all the spaces. He's up there with I think I saw him with Charlie and what's his name, Casey. It was up on that space. So they're really pushing that. Pryzm, he's in every. You can't go into a spaces without Pryzm being there. These guys are really pushing and just being there and grinding, and it's beautiful to see. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and you're right about Moral, and I think that's such an important thing that like people that are building a project, a company in ordinals, or even just in general, like in DeFi, crypto, Web3, really, is you got to put the right people around you, right, to be able to help you build this thing, right? So it seems like that's what's going on over there. But yeah, man, like one thing I'll say is that like it's always like positive energy coming from these guys, whether it's to help promote like a new artist, or just really even to get into discussions that they're not normally, you wouldn't normally think that you'd see like the art community in, right? Like right now the topics are like the token community, right? But they're still there because they realize that ordinals as a whole is a community, a family, and whether they're more focused on onboarding artists, the community the token communities, kind of going through their thing, and it's all together, like and some DeFi people are getting onboarded actually after they come over. I was one of them, to where I buy art on Bitcoin now. And I don't know if I would have said that if you would have asked me like 7 months ago, 8 months ago. I would have been more like PFP, sure, but like I'm actually buying art pieces.
So. Yeah, I'm the same way. I would buy 5,000 collections, 10,000 collections. I would never really stay with the one-on-ones and the prints and stuff like that. But now I'm buying them, and it's fun, it's exciting, and you're kind of betting on these artists, and it's really nice. It's really nice. It's different. You're betting on a person instead of this Ponzi. So it's awesome.
Well, also I think it's real quick before we bring them up. I think it's also just like learning what you like. As like, you know what I mean? Because it's like self-discovery a little bit, right?
It really
like,
is.
Because then like you and I like kind of like go back and forth on, I like this one, and you're like, I don't really like that one. I like this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a really cool thing, right? Because it's not just about like, okay, I'm buying this so it shoots up in value like 2 years later. Of course we want that to happen, but like if you can like discover yourself in what you actually like in digital art, that's a cool thing. So
yeah. And like I discovered that I'm a huge fan of the glitch art. I never knew that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know I like that. But every time I see one, I'm like, oh well, this is cool. And then my wife was like, that they're all glitch art, and I'm like, oh, Yeah, that's probably why I like them all.
That's
So
funny.
I'm a fan of glitch art now, and I had no idea. So now let's bring him in. Let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Pryzm. What's up, buddy?
GM, how we doing today, guys?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you being here. I told you guys on the space last week. I mean, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, holding the community together, bringing everyone together around these important topics, but also highlighting really everyone in the space, everyone who's building, which is super important. There's a lot of builders in the Ordinals community that don't necessarily get the spotlight they should, and you guys are doing a great job of giving that to everyone. So very much appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate the
that.
kind words.
Yeah, man. All right, well, let's just hop into it. And well, to your point, real quick, we're really trying to go after the underdogs. We want the underdogs to win. We want the people who's work 8 hours, 10 hours a day at a normal job and come home and work on their passion project for 8 hours. You know, like that's who we want to win, and that's who we kind of focus on. That's why we're kind of going after the people that we are going after. So, but yeah, we appreciate you actually like noticing, and it's nice to hear. But yeah, to get let's do it. So on the show, if you watched any episode, pretty much all the same. We'd like to dig into the person's background. We like to go as far as back as you'll kind of let us know. Obviously, you're not doxxed, and we're not expecting you to say anything out of the ordinary. But if you could give us your background leading up to Bitcoin, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have watched a few of these, and that Paris episode was great. She's a part of what we're doing, and you mentioned Gadfly earlier. Love what Gadfly is doing. So yeah, I mean this has been great to kind of see all these highlights. Yeah, my Bitcoin. I got into Bitcoin back in 2013. I got shaken out in 2014, as everyone does. You buy the top, and that's what I did. And so I got shaken out shortly after, and then sort of got back in, and I think it was 2016, and that's when I really started, paying attention. And so, in that time, from 2016 to really like 20, I guess up to now is really where you started seeing art being put on chain. You go back to 2016, you got the Rare Pepes, 2017 Crypto Punks and Crypto Kitties and all those things. But I faded all those things. So I didn't really jump in and start getting active until 2020 when we were all stuck at home and, you're just chronically online. So that's when I started getting active and really started collecting art and just connecting with artists across the space. Did some collecting over in Ethereum and Solana and Tezos, and then ultimately landed in the Stacks community. That community, leading up to Ordinals was very, very tight knit. And you really got to kind of get to know everyone in the ecosystem, and that's where Boozy and I met, and that's why we were able to jump into Ordinals so quickly. So yeah, we were right there on the edges of Bitcoin, thinking this is as close as we'll ever get. And then Ordinals come along. You kind of sleep on it for a couple of weeks while everyone's inscribing anything they can, and then you actually do it, and you're like, yeah, this is game changing. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
So what was your earliest inscription? You gotta tell us the exact number, but around
18,585.
Ooh,
Nice.
So
nice.
it's not as early as it could have been, but that was the point when I'm
That's
like, man, I've got to get something on chain.
amazing.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I
So
thought of no, I thought of what's an NFT. This is what people were doing back then. They were just grabbing NFTs and describing them. And so I thought, what's the one I will never sell? And I grabbed, I don't know if you guys know Dr. Suss, but he has a collection called The Saints, and it's a really cool collection. And I grabbed my Saint, put it on chain, and then from there, yeah, let's go, let's do this.
So you grab the one that you own and you put it up there.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So, and I'm guessing. So, what was Stacks like? You said it's a very tight knit community. I don't really know much about what was going on there. So, if you, who do you remember from over there, and how was it different from what we have today?
Well, Stacks was, I mean, it was a solid community, and there was a lot of activity there. Surprisingly, now that you kind of look back on it, a lot of the early Ordinals builders actually came from Stacks community. So, you think of the major wallets, Xverse, Hero, Gamma, all of those companies came from Stacks, and they just very quickly shifted over. And you had some really great projects that were just community related, and you tended to see a lot of the same people across those different communities. So yeah, it was a cool. I sort of settled there because like I said, we figured this was the closest we would ever get to art on Bitcoin, and doing the types of things that we were seeing on Ethereum and Solana and everywhere else on Bitcoin. And so, yeah, when Ordinals came, it definitely shifted that mindset. And now, looking at, forward looking, I just don't know if if there's anything that matches the properties that you get from storing things on Bitcoin. The immutable nature, and I know it's maybe a little bit more expensive than putting out a smart contract, but I think there's value in that expense, actually keeping that art on chain forever. And so, yeah, we've seen a lot of the Stacks community kind of migrate over. There are some projects there that are still doing okay and building towards the future there, but I think a lot of that community has realized that ordinals are probably the future for Bitcoin.
Awesome. So was Counterfeit Culture established on Stacks?
No. But we did use Stacks. So our first inscription, which I don't know if you guys saw the article that just dropped a few minutes ago from Casey, but so our first inscription stays 38,980, and the way this started, I'll kind of back up a little bit as to how Counterfeit got started. Boozy has his own project, or had his own project on Stacks called Hooch House, and some really dope collections there. Booze Brains, that collection is legendary. And so Boozy and I became friends over the 2 years we were on Stacks together. Just me as a collector, him as a great artist and just a great person. And then when Ordinals came out, he was working on some things that didn't necessarily fit into the Boozy brand that he had built. And, he kind of wanted to break out of that a little bit. So I think one thing that artists face in this space is, collectors know them for one style or one thing, and they feel maybe stuck to that. And I'm glad to see that a lot of artists are kind of breaking out from that. But that's a common thought is, do I need to continue doing this same style of art forever because that's what my collectors expect? And so Boozy had this thought of, what if I just create this alternative persona and I put out something that is it completely contrasts the art that I do as Boozy. So Boozy's art is very fun. It's very comic-y, bright. And so his Hoodie Black character is very dark and it's glitch, and it's just got this completely different tone. So he actually showed me our second inscription first, which I don't know the number of that one. It's in the 89,000s. And he's like, do you know how to inscribe? And I was like, no, but I'll figure it out. Let's do this. And then he sent me our first inscription. And then that's when I talked to him and said, there's actually much more here than just dropping pieces of art. This is a whole brand. This is, we can actually build around this. And so that's what we did. We jumped in early on in February 9th. And then from there, that sort of was phase one of Counterfeit. Once we inscribed that first piece, we didn't have recursion. We didn't have any of these new advancements in tech, but give pieces of that inscription to our community, so they could kind of feel like they were a part of what we were doing. At this time, there was a lot of PFP collections, and we just didn't want to do that. We wanted to be completely art focused, and so we put that first inscription, we turned it into 111 dynamic editions using Stacks. So that's why those are on Stacks. We, for the longest time, once a week, we were updating it, changing the look of what we call them artifacts, but what that artifact looked like. And we do have plans for those moving forward, coming back to Ordinals. But yeah, that's where we're utilizing Stacks. We didn't start there, but we thought, L2 is a great way to kind of have fun with the metadata and put editions out as sort of an access to what we're doing. And then that was sort of phase one, jumping into onboarding artists through small collections and curating those collections. And so we've got a few very early collections there before we really jumped into the core of our project.
So would you say you and Boozy are the co-founders of Counterculture?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And take us through like how the team was built out. So it's you guys now. You guys are over here. You learned how to inscribe, and so what's next? What happens next?
Yeah. So Boozy and I started, and we actually brought in someone. He goes by the name of EOM, and he's actually back with us now. But for a period, he was kind of focusing on some IRL things. But EOM stepped in as sort of our technical guy, and so as I was bringing in artists, helping them kind of create the art, helping them learn compression, and all of those things, which it's a pretty involved process. And Boozy was creating his own art. EOM was the one we sort of relied on to keep up with the tech side and run our node and all of those things. And so EOM worked with us and did a bulk of our first inscriptions. And then he had to step away. And that's when I sort of spun up a node and took on that workload myself. But EOM has come back to us as of maybe like 2 months ago and is kind of building the next phase of what we're doing. So it was us three there for a while. Then it was just me and Boozy. And then it was us three again. And we've since brought in Moral. Things are getting very, very busy. When you think about, a typical project, you sort of get everything together, you get the art together, you put your strategy together, you release it, and then you sort of engage with the community. What's our next step? And sort of like keep everyone involved. We do that cycle every single week. So it's just a lot to kind of take on. So Moral, being such a big part of the Ordinals community and being such a huge advocate for art, it just made complete sense that he steps in and sort of helps with the community aspect. And we do have bigger plans for Moral as we go forward. But for now, just kind of stepping in and taking on community and engagement and all those things.
Nice. So you mentioned that you guys used Stacks before. Was that to basically have the editions and prints? Is that the reason why you used that?
Yeah, that was the sole reason. Instead of inscribing 111 of the same thing, we used L2, and we thought, if we have smart contracts, we can actually make this fun. We can change the look of this and just pop out a new one every once in a while and kind of keep it interesting. But the conversation that was going on at the time was also around like block space and respecting Bitcoin and the block space. So it's like, we can inscribe 111 of these, or we can just use L2 and sort of leverage that and do it a whole lot cheaper for everyone, not take up all that block space. It was a much more complicated, just approach early on. People were kind of figuring out morally where they stand on all this stuff. And so, we went over to L2 for those.
Yeah, it definitely didn't make sense at the time. Like if you thought about it, right, to inscribe the entire collection on Ordinals. But now that recursion has come into the equation and it's been here for a bit, are your latest editions are all you're using recursion for that, right?
Yeah, this was sort of phase two. So, phase one, I would say, was kind of getting as much art in the form of small one-of-one collections on chain as possible. And then phase two was when we really started to focus on our core things, which include the counterfeit cards, our identity PFPs, these things that sort of help us grow a community around the project and make it easier for these artists to onboard and kind of fall into a community rather than have to worry about bringing their own. And so, the first counterfeit card from Boozy was actually the first recursive edition on Ordinals. And if I'm not mistaken, the first 8 cards were the first 8 recursive editions on Ordinals. And so that's when we saw others kind of step into the space from there. But recursion has been great. It allows us to get art out there to a wider community. As artists are coming into the space, it sets them up a lot better to have 80, 100 holders rather than one holder of a one of one. And so they can then kind of expand from there, but they have a nice base. It also allows us to go as high quality as possible on inscriptions, and still give a low cost, like a low entry to collectors. So in my opinion, these are such a great option for artists, these editions, and that's probably why we're seeing that sort of take over here recently from others as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you guys are doing. Like you mentioned, it seemed like you guys were the first to come out with this edition approach for artists. So when you're trying to find a new artist for a part of your the brand to bring into the brand, are you looking for established artists that have already done digital art on other chains, or are you looking for like in real life artists to try to bring into the space?
We've done both. We've brought in. There's one I'm thinking off the top of my head, Pinky Vision. He really is not active in this space, but he's a great artist. He does graffiti art. He's done art for Glastonbury and just all kinds of things. So he's one we've brought in. We're definitely not stuck to those who are already here, but it does help. As we're trying to onboard artists in the space, we're also trying to build our own community. And so yeah, it does help to have those who have been in the space. But I would say that like we don't specifically target those who have like established, what you would think of as like established or like high following counts and those sorts of things. What we've seen in the space over the past couple years is those that have influence in the art space tend to overrun everyone else. And like a follower count doesn't mean better art. Like that has nothing to do with the art they're putting out. And so we really focus on the artists who are kind of smaller or mid-size follower counts. But the most important thing being that they're active in the space. They understand the culture that's it's so important in this space. They're good value adds to the community overall. Those who are engaging and they've got a great attitude, they approach things the right way, they're here for the right reasons. Like those are the things that we look for. And so as we sort of build out the art community in Ordinals, because really we were the only ones really focusing on like building that foundation of the art community, we wanted to build it the right way. And so bringing in those who kind of fit all those, check all those boxes, I think it just sets up the space much better over time. And it also helps us kind of build that core community ourselves too. So what we've seen is, these artists come in, they engage with each other. They're friends. They're now like all following each other. They all support each other. They talk to our community every single day. They're very, very active. And so it's worked out, for the most part, worked out very well. But these are the people you want to build the space around. You don't want to like focus on bringing artists who are just like, they want to make some money, they want to do one drop and then they'll go back to doing their thing. That doesn't help anybody. And so that's, our approach is really, those who are like value adds to the community on top of being great artists.
Gotcha. What kind of artist would you say you are? Because like some people that make art, when you put the headphones on, blast the music, and just go at it, or do you kind of like what do you do when you're to get in the zone to kind of like create?
I'm not an artist, man.
He's a curator.
I'm not. No.
Oh wow.
I guess there's an art in curation, but
yeah.
no, I'm not an artist at all. I'm just a big supporter of artists.
That's awesome.
So yeah, like I would love to have the ability or the time to go out there and learn some of these things. But I'm 100% focused on others right now. Maybe there will be a day when I can kind of focus on my own thing.
That's absolutely amazing. I actually respect that because it's different than just being an artist and just trying to onboard other artists. You're actually trying to like really help the artist because you're bringing them. You're going out there seeing kind of what you like and bringing them all together. Yeah, that's awesome.
One thing I'll
Yeah.
say. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
speak
go
on you.
ahead.
But I was gonna say one thing I'll say is that like you guys have established, and no pun intended, but this culture, right? Of like I said, kind of carving out like the editions and prints, and then some people kind of notice that, I feel like, and then there's some other entities that are starting to follow that, like obviously Gamma, let's just say it, right? So that they've come out. Do you feel like there's this like overall like community of artists that are just like, okay, everybody, it's all good for everybody, or do you feel like there's this like market share battle of like other entities trying to take artists and stuff like that? What is the energy like right now, because we're not that deep into the artist community for ordinals?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer it carefully.
smart.
So I think whether we were part of that influence or not, there are a lot of folks kind of stepping into the art space in ordinals. Like, to us from the very beginning, the most obvious value proposition was immutable art. Like, we can do all this other stuff elsewhere, but immutable art is extremely important. It's the only place that you can store your art and know that it'll never be changed and never be touched. And to me, that's the biggest, like, most obvious value proposition. And so yeah, it's great to see others jumping in and being more prominent, and kind of pushing us all forward. As far as like market share and things like that, we like you just said, we're really focused on building our own culture. And I think we've done a very good job of sort of influencing the Bitcoin art space with what we've done so far. And so as we kind of go forward, it's not necessarily like, to us, others might feel there's a lot of competition, or might be competing directly and those sorts of things. But in my opinion, if you build the best tools, if you provide the best experience, the best community, if you provide that proper foundation for artists, like, you're naturally going to be the chosen option for these artists. And so so that's kind of the next phase of our project, is not just putting out art, but giving artists every single tool that they would need to be successful. And so that's sort of where we are right now. And so we're not there just yet. And so you see others kind of jumping in and stepping in that place. But I do not believe that. I don't believe the experience that artists and collectors have come to expect by using other chains, that is not on Ordinals yet. And that's what we're determined to build.
Gotcha. So what does success look like for you guys? Say we're a year and a half down. The bull market is at its peak. What does full success look like for counterculture?
Well, I think, man, I say this all the time. This market is so small right now. It's so very tiny. There's, I feel like there are a lot of people in the space who forget what a bull market looks like. 12 months from now is going to be absolutely insane. And everyone here who is, not just worried about like minting this thing and then selling it tomorrow for $20, like, those people who actually are looking into things that have staying power, they will be set up very, very well. Think about, Ethereum back in 2021. It was insanity. You could mint anything and you could make a profit on it. Now magnify that on Bitcoin, because this is the chain that everyone knows, and with the art being immutable, and it's sort of like, it's got this weird combination of, typically what we've seen in the space is like this, whatever new thing, that's where people go. But here we are that new thing, but it's also Bitcoin. And so it's like got this, there's so many upsides. I think in the next 6 to 12 months, things will really start to ramp up. And you felt it. I felt it over the past few weeks. Even this past week, it's like, the energy sort of shifts and you can feel it. People are getting more interested in certain things. One of those being art. And I think that's just going to explode, man. As more artists come into ordinals, their collectors follow them. Once they learn how, like, you don't have to be this super technical person to contribute to the space. Once you finally like get past that initial point, you're here, right? Like, what did we see in this early speed run of a bull market? We had a lot of people coming in from other chains and never looking back. Like, when is the last time, you touched your MetaMask or your Phantom wallet? You know what I mean? So like that was just a small glimpse of what's going to happen.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, I came from over on Phantom EVM, and I was on Ethereum first, went over there, and then same thing. When I got over here, I was like, yeah, there's no reason to go back. Like, DeFi is gonna be built here. There's this new thing called Artonbitcoin that's here, and there's some really special people building really cool things, and we're super freaking early, man. So early. It's so nice to be early too. It's like, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sitting here on this call, and I'm so used to being on Twitter Space. I'm trying to throw up the hundreds. It's not letting me.
That's funny. So what does it look like whenever like you do onboard an artist? Is there any type of like agreement that you guys have, or is it just more kind of like relaxed in terms of that?
Yeah, we take care of our artists. We make sure that the artists are not only supported, but they also have the foundation to stick around for the long term. So with each artist that we bring in, I will say, like, that is the last part of the conversation. No one asks about it. They're just more interested in what we're doing. They're more interested in inscribing. Once we tell them, like, we'll take care of everything, just do the art. We'll inscribe it. We'll cover your costs. Like, we'll do all of this stuff. Just fit it into these specs. And this is the idea, and this is the theme, and like, this is what we're doing as a project. They just get excited. And working everything out from there is kind of the last piece, but really not too important in the eyes of the artist. I don't want to get into like specifics around everything, but I will say that I'm very proud that all things relative, launching with Counterfeit is the absolute best place to put your art, whether it's on another chain, whether it's with someone else here in the Ordinals ecosystem. We have done the most to onboard artists from a financial standpoint and from a community standpoint. And so each artist that comes in, they walk away in a 2-day mint with the funding to stay in the community that will follow them and continue to support them and collect their work. And those things are so valuable, especially the community part of that. When you think about like marketplaces, which are more utilities, we use them because we have to. The community that we've built is really unmatched from that standpoint. And when you think about other projects that will most likely be doing similar things, or have seen what we've done and kind of want to do it better, you got to be really careful with how you build out those communities. From the very beginning, we have made it a point to really focus on bringing collectors in who see the long-term vision, who are really interested in the art itself, and less focused on short-term profits. And that has worked out very, very well for us, and that's what we'll continue to do. And so those are the things that the ways that we sort of approach it. And I think that community aspect, and then the financial stability, and giving these artists the ability to stay in the ecosystem, continue to inscribe wherever that is, that's super important. Onboarding is not just like bringing people into the door. It's the whole experience, because if you don't offer all those other things, they're just gonna go back. They're just gonna go back to what they're used to.
So, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say that. Go ahead, Shizzy. Sorry, you were cutting out.
Oh, was I? I'm sorry. It sounds like you guys are like the launch pad for like the starving artists.
You could say, yeah, you could say something like that. That's really, when others started popping up, it kind of helped us figure out what our place really was for the moment. And that was really being the pipeline for art on Bitcoin. I would say like 80-90% of our artists are now accepted into other programs. They're dropping work on their own, and it's they're doing very well for themselves. And so, yeah, I mean, I see Counterfeit as a pipeline for art until we have, the next sort of step in our project complete, in which case we will be the only place that you need to look for art. So there's a lot of things coming up that I'm really excited about.
Awesome. So it sounded like you were kind of being a little vague about that. So is that something that you're not able to talk about at all right now in terms of that next phase of the project?
Man, it's taking everything in me not to talk about it all the time because I'm so excited. I'm so bullish. I'll answer it this way, man. I think it was 3 cards in. We were using a marketplace for the first 3 cards, and I just wasn't satisfied with us putting something out there for $30 and the buyer paying 45 because of the marketplace fees. So we built our own. Like, we built our own mint page and mint site and launchpad for ourselves. The goal here is to build our own ecosystem. There are others you can look at that I'm trying to be very careful. There are others you can look at in other ecosystems that do things very well as far as building out their own art ecosystems, and you have collectors specifically going to those places and not really collecting from anywhere else. This is what we're building here in Ordinal. So, like, all of these artists that we're working with, take every opportunity that you feel comfortable with. You know what I mean? Outside of Counterfeit, let's go do your thing. Everyone's here. Everyone's got to eat. So go eat. And when we're ready, we'll be here and we'll have everything you need. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could get into, and maybe I can come back in the next 45 days or so, and talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, I'm super, super excited about what we're building. Every single tool that an artist needs, from the initial launch to management of their collections on and off our site, everything collectors expect, all different types of ways to get art out, ways to manage your holdings, and different interactive things to do with your holdings. So there's a lot that we're kind of working on right now.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny because, like, before you jumped up, or before you jumped into before we went live or recorded, Shizzy and I was talking about counterfeit culture, and I was like, yeah, they started this, they built their culture, and what seems to be happening is people that like that culture will kind of be loyal to it, and I feel like that's kind of how it could go towards, right? So that's awesome that you bring that up, because I think that will just kind of solidify that last part of one-stop shop type of situation. But excited to see what you guys got, man.
Yeah, I'm super pumped, man. I'm super pumped, and believe me, I want to share more. I've got to keep it to myself, but I can tell you that our goal is a week and a half from now to give a little sneak peek
Nice.
with that card that's coming out that week, and then we'll continue to iterate on it from there. So every time you visit, you'll see new things kind of pop up. But yeah, I'm super excited. Again, this hasn't been built in Ordinals. There might be experiences that have sort of elevated what we're used to in Ordinals, but something like this hasn't been done. And so, yeah, and you're absolutely right. We've built a very, very strong community. They believe in what we're doing. They believe in the type of artists that we're elevating. We've put art out at price points that are accessible. Like, when you think about, like, your everyday life, you go out and you buy a t-shirt, or you buy, you go to Target and buy a piece of art to hang on your wall, and, like, no one blinks an eye. Like, no one, you don't say, I'm going to return this tomorrow for 2x. That's sort of the mentality. Like, you're buying it for the art, and the way that we're putting it together by putting all of these artists together in a cohesive collection, this is how it sort of retains its value over time. Like, when you think about, the rare Pepes, the fake rares, the memes from 6529, it's a very similar concept. We wanted to be the ones to bring this to Ordinals, And it kind of takes the art and adds this this aspect to it that people in this space are used to, as far as collectability goes. And so I think it's a really good avenue to kind of building that community, and then and then moving them into the one of one pieces and other types of art.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you guys have a nice roadmap going on. And you said a week and a half, so I'll be in your DMs in 10 days, wondering what's going on. But
There we
no, I'm
go.
just kidding. But so as part of the show, we kind of give our guests the stage. Give you like 3 minutes or however long you need to really dig deep and talk to our community, your community, or whatever you want. The stage is yours.
Yeah. No, well, first off, I appreciate you guys asking me to come here. This has been great. It's great talking to you guys. I will definitely, once we are at phase 3, I will definitely be back, and we can talk about that. Maybe we can do like a walkthrough too. That would be pretty dope.
Awesome.
So yeah, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just been really cool to see the evolution of the space. I think, early on, there was so much noise. There was kind of the same mentality of like, this mint is upcoming, so like I'm gonna chase this allow list, and then I'm gonna flip it, and I'm gonna go chase this allow list, and like that gets so tiring. And like, if we're doing things here on Bitcoin with these immutable properties, I just think things should be done differently. I don't think we should just try to recreate everything that's happened elsewhere. And so it's been good, actually, for us, like throughout the last few months where it's been a little bit quieter. You see a lot of collections kind of, rethinking how they're launching and when they're launching, and all of those things. But those projects that are here, with, that will last, they were able to step out of that, and they were able to get a little bit more eyes than they would have, with all of that going on. And so this has been a really great opportunity for us to get out there. We're going to continue to kind of focus on expanding community, or as you put it, Yagobi, gaining market share, keeping that, as much of that in counterfeit as possible, and then prepare for the next step, which will be, just in my opinion, game changing. And so yeah, I'm really grateful for the community that we've put together, who are just ride or die with what we're doing, and they're super supportive of all these artists. And I'm thankful. I was on the phone with Twick earlier, and I told him the same thing. Like, without Twick, without Solemn, without Sasha Chudo, we wouldn't be where we are. Like, those 3 artists plus Boozy, obviously, created the whole vibe that we have today. And it's just been phenomenal to get the support from those artists, and then adding in others who kind of have that same feel, that approach of like, I'm tired of getting run over in this space. Like, let's all band together and let's create something special that's grassroots and represents the people. And let's go. And so I'm appreciative of all these artists and of this community that we've put together for kind of seeing the vision. And I'm super bullish on the future. Man, this is going to be great. And yeah, I will definitely come back to do a proper intro of what we've got, and a walkthrough and whatever else. But again, I appreciate you guys having me here. But yeah, last thing I would say is, go check out the Twitter, at Counterfeit Cult CVLT. Go check out our link tree. Same extension there at the end. Discord.gg/counterfeit. Yeah, so go check us out, dive in, send us whatever questions you have. Happy to get them answered. Now we have Moral to give a little bit more support too. But yeah, man, again, just very happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, this has been many weeks in the making, so really appreciate it. It was well worth the wait, man. Definitely one of my favorite interviews so far. You guys are building something amazing, and I can't wait for round 2.
Thank you, man.
And for the audience, as always, we'll have all the socials and the links in the description. And if you are an artist out there that's interested, reach out to the team, Pryzm, Moral, get connected, because they're definitely doing great things.
Yeah, and shout out to Paris, who did a previous show. She's doing killer things in the space. Lemon Haze. We're kind of seeing this push right now of like, fine art is coming to Bitcoin, and it just rubs me the wrong way. Like, what do we have if not fine art that's already here? And so go support these early ordinals artists. Paris, Lemon Haze, Otto is great. There's so many artists out there who have been grinding. And so, go find those because those are the ones that have cemented themselves as like the OGs, the legends of the space, and don't get don't get caught up in others coming here if they're not here for the right reason. So that's kind of what I would leave it with, is like, we want to build this thing the right way, and that's just not us as a project, but just overall we want to make sure this community stays the way it is for as long as possible.
100%. I completely agree. So
awesome.
It's been absolutely amazing, and like I said, we'll do round 2. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
So that was great. That was everything I thought it would be and more. What those guys are building over there is special.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. We've been on multiple spaces with Pryzm. Class act, always contributes to the conversations, always talks about, how more positivity can come into ordinals. Obviously he's more art focused, but he joins into every conversation. And so really, really love it. Really love what they're doing. I need to definitely expand my Counterfeit Culture collection specifically. And I will, I just need to take a little time to see what pieces exactly I like. And I'll start to build that out.
Yeah, and like another reason why I respect Pryzm too is because like I was in the spaces, and he has a fine art spaces that he runs often with the Counterfeit Culture, and people come in and start talking drive chains and shit, and he's like, dude, like, get out of here, like we get you can do that shit anywhere else, you're not doing it in here. And then he booted the dude, and I was like, that's amazing. Now I was like, let's go. It got me so hyped.
Yeah,
It was like,
well, I mean,
we'll come in here with your bullshit.
Yeah, and well, I think that's different too. It's like the space was specifically for fine art.
Yes. Yep.
But what I'm talking about is like he'll join our spaces.
Yeah.
When
Well, that too.
I would and I'll say like I would say our spaces is probably like 60% DeFi talk, maybe even a little bit more, and then it's like 30 to 35% like art. Right, because like we cover everything. That's one thing for sure, but we're definitely a little bit more heavy on the DeFi. But it doesn't matter because like they join in on the conversation. So really appreciate that. I love the camaraderie with the community, from the art community. I would say 98% of the art community on Bitcoin is very like welcoming and loves each other. Just like the DeFi side, there's always that 2%, right? That's just kind of like, but it doesn't matter because they get drowned out by all the positivity and stuff. So
yep. All right, guys, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We put out videos all the time. We really appreciate you guys listening. Every view means so much to us, and we're gonna keep doing this. We're gonna televise revolution, baby.
Peace.